Shalom, Akim. This is your brother Karath coming at you again with a lesson, man. I want to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rekakadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles who rule well. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect, and enough respect to you brothers that's laboring in the truth, making your calling and election sure, continuing in the spirit of Lord Yahweh Shai, not going about to establish your own righteousness, but sticking to the script. I'm going to go into an article. I'm gonna grab some precepts, and I'm gonna actually grab another article to back up what I pull, the precepts that I pull. So it reads, for Native peoples, Thanksgiving isn't a celebration; it's a national day of mourning. It says Keisha James' grandfather, who's in the center, is carrying a box. It says in the box are the Wampanoag human remains. He and other National Day of Mourning protesters liberated from the Pilgrim Museum in 1974. It says this year marks the 400th anniversary of the Pilgrims arriving at what's now known as Plymouth, Massachusetts. Let me see the date. Oh, okay, November 25th, 2020. Okay. It says the so-called first Thanksgiving has been celebrated and taught to school children as the origin story of what would later become the United States. But many Native Americans say Thanksgiving Day is a reminder of the slaughter of millions of indigenous people and the theft of their lands by outsiders. It says the Native American Indians of New England declared Thanksgiving a national day of mourning 50 years ago. In 1970, the descendants of the Pilgrims wanted to hold a banquet to celebrate the anniversary of the Mayflower landing in Plymouth, and asked a Wampanoag man named Wamasuta Frank James to make a speech, says his granddaughter Keisha James. The banquet organizers invited Wamasuta Frank James to speak on one strict condition. He needed to provide a copy of the speech in advance under the guise of editing the spelling and grammar. Their true motivation was to check the content, Keisha James says. Her grandfather's speech didn't praise the Pilgrims as their descendants wanted. They told him that he absolutely under no circumstances could give the speech that he was planning on giving, and they offered to write him a different speech. She says they were quite angry about the speech he wrote because it told the truth about Thanksgiving. It's con. So they didn't want the man to speak the truth. Let me read on. It says Wamasuta Frank James refused to give the edited speech. And Salakia, brothers, this is an in transit lesson. I don't know if I said that in the beginning, but just want to make that known just in case I'm reading and it's kind of choppy. It says Wamasuta Frank James refused to give the edited speech. His granddaughter says instead he and a group of supporters met atop Coles Hill in Plymouth on November 27, 1970 to commemorate the first National Day of Mourning. While millions of fellow Americans carved turkeys to celebrate Thanksgiving, 21-year-old Keisha James attends the National Day of Mourning every year. Many indigenous people fast from sundown the night before to sundown the day of to remember the hardship and genocide their ancestors faced. She says the National Day of Mourning also engenders indigenous unity with people from around the world speaking at the event. Thanks to the COVID-19 pandemic, this year's National Day of Mourning will look different. Keisha James and some others will still gather at Coles Hill at noon on Thanksgiving Day to make speeches, which will be live streamed. Most of this year's program is pre-recorded and will feature indigenous people from South America, Canada, and more. The speakers will highlight the different struggles indigenous people face around the world, such as the Mi'kmaq tribes disputes over lobster trapping in Canada. A member of the Navajo Nation, which COVID-19 has hit hardest of the tribal nations, will also speak, she says. All of the speeches will likely mention the pandemic because indigenous communities in the U.S. have been disproportionately impacted, she says. This Thanksgiving, Keisha James asks non-Native people to educate themselves and their families on the real history of their families, on the real history of the holiday. Take time to learn the tribe whose land you're on. Then look into the tribe's struggles and donate to help, she says. Try to divorce your Thanksgiving celebrations from the Thanksgiving mythology, she says. So no more pilgrims and Indians, no more teaching your children about the first Thanksgiving as we learn it in public school where it was a friendly meal. And don't only think about indigenous people on Thanksgiving, she says. As many Americans start to wake up to the realities of Thanksgiving story, some people are receptive to learning the truth about the holiday and accept that what they learned in school is a lie, she says. But a significant amount of people accuse indigenous people of trying to ruin the holiday and disrupt family celebrations, she says. Keisha James says she doesn't object to families gathering to eat a meal together, but rather the false mythology surrounding the day. We're essentially extending our hand to these people and saying, here's the truth. If you want to learn the truth and accept the truth, come with us, she says. And unfortunately, some people don't want to take our hand because they're committed to dying on the wrong side of history. Revisiting her grandfather's rejected speech 5 decades later, Keisha James was reminded that the Native Americans are fighting the same battles today. Part of it gives me hope because this is a visionary speech. It's envisioning a better America, a better world for Native Americans, she says. But at the same time, my grandfather's vision has still not come true 50 years after the speech. And so it just reminds me that we have a lot of work to do and we still have a long way to go for Native Americans to reclaim our proper place in this country, except from Salakia, it says excerpt from Salakia. It says excerpt from Wamsuta Frank James' speech. It says, today we must work towards a more humane America, a more Indian America, where men and nature once again are important, where the Indian values of honor, truth, and brotherhood prevail. You, the white man, are celebrating an anniversary. We, the Wemaponoks, will help you celebrate in the concept of a new beginning. It was the beginning of a new life for the Pilgrims. Now, 350 years later, it is the beginning of a new determination for the original American, the American Indian. There are some factors concerning the Wampanoags and other Indians across this vast nation. We now have 350 years of experience living among the white man. We can now speak his language. We can now think as the white man thinks. We can now compete with him for the top jobs. We're being heard. We are now being listened to. The important point is that along with these necessities of everyday living, we still have the spirit, we still have the unique culture, we still have the will, and most importantly of all, the determination to remain as Indians. We are determined, and our presence here this evening is living testimony that this is only the beginning of the American Indian, particularly the Wampanoag, to regain a position in this country that is rightfully ours. And I kind of wanted to click on this. I kind of went past it, but I wanted to see what it had to say. It says tribes whose land you're on. Click that and see what it does. Oh, it's lucky. I don't think it's going to go to it. So guess my internet is acting kind of spotty right now. But anyway, moving right along here. I wanted to go here too. It says broken treaties with Native American tribes timeline from 1778 to 1871. The United States signed some 368 treaties with various indigenous people across the North American continent, and they broke all of the damn treaties, man. Signed 368 treaties and broke them all. It says concluded during the nearly 100-year period from the Revolutionary War to the aftermath of the Civil War. Some 368 treaties would define the relationship between the United States and Native Americans for centuries to come. The treaties were based on the fundamental idea that each tribe was an independent nation with their own right to self-determination and self-rule, but as white settlers began moving onto Native American lands, this idea came into conflict with the relentless pace of westward expansion, resulting in many broken promises on the part of the U.S. government. Yeah, so these devils, they break promises, man. We know that. We know that they break covenants. And I'm gonna grab some precepts, but let me just read a couple of these. It says treaty with the Delawares, Treaty of Fort Pitt in 1778. It says in September 1778, representatives of the newly formed Salakia Continental Congress signed a treaty with the Lenape at Fort Pitt, Pennsylvania, in the first official peace treaty between the new United States and a Native American nation. Both sides agreed to maintain friendship and support each other against the British, but mutual suspicion continued, especially after Pennsylvania. Militiamen killed nearly 100 Lenape, most of them women and children. See, these devils, they don't mind killing women and children, man. These Uncle Ian them. It says at the village of Gedenhouten in March 1782, mistakenly believing they were responsible for attacks against white settlers. After the American victory, Salaki, it says after the American victory, more and more white settlers moved onto Lenape territory until the Treaty of Greenville in 1795 forced them and other Ohio country Native Americans to surrender most of their lands. And here's another treaty. This is the Treaty of Hopewell in 1785 to 1786. In the years following the Revolutionary War, Andrew Pickens and other commissioners of the new U.S. government concluded 3 highly similar treaties with the Cherokee and Choctaw and Cherokee nations at Hopewell Pickens Plantation, home in northwestern South Carolina, collectively known as the Treaty of Hopewell. These agreements extended the friendship and protection of the United States to the southern Native American tribes. All 3 ended with the same sentence: the hatchet shall be forever buried in peace given by the United States of America. Despite the sentiment, white settlers were already moving onto the lands designated for the Cherokee, leading to more conflict in the Treaty of Holston, 1791, in which Cherokee forfeited still more land. And it keeps going on and on, man. The Treaty of Canandaigua, Pickering Treaty, Calico Treaty, and then let me go down, Treaty of Greenville, the Treaty of Fort Wayne, Andrew Jackson and Indian Removal Act, and it just keeps going on and on, man. These devils, they break treaties, man. And I'm not gonna read them all just for the sake of time, but you see it right here, man. November 10th, 2020, man. Broken treaties with Native American tribes timeline. These devils, they broke a bunch of treaties with the Native Americans, man. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna grab some precepts, man, and Lord willing, Adawan Ratazah, it'll be edifying to those that are meant to receive it, man. I guess the first I'm gonna grab is in Psalms 55. Yeah, this is Psalms 55. In verse 20, it says, He hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He hath broken his covenant. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter. But look what it said, though. It says he hath broken his covenant, man. Put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He hath broken his covenant. Yeah, so the Indians were trying to be at peace with this devil, man. With Uncle E, and family. He was trying to be at peace with this devil, but he couldn't even be at peace with this devil because this devil had war in his heart, man. These devils had war in their heart, so he couldn't even be at peace with them. The native Indians couldn't even be at peace with these devils. It says the words of his mouth were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. Yeah, so they was putting people to death. We just read it in the treaties that they broke. They were basically suspecting that the native Indians were attacking them. So they start putting them to death, man. Come on, let me grab another precept, man. This is Psalms 62. This is Psalm 62 and verse 4. It says, they only consult to cast him down. You know what? Yeah, I just read it. They only consult to cast him down from his excellency. And this is talking about the righteous, which is you Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians. And Uncle E and the other nations are confederate against you, man. It says they only consult to cast him down from his excellency. They delight in lies. They bless with their mouth, but they curse inwardly. Come on, man. And that's how they do, man. They speak real nice, real eloquent, and they make it seem like they have nothing but love for you. Meanwhile, they want to stab you right in your back, man. And stand up in your place and say that they're you. This is John. This is St. John 13, verse 2. It says, and supper being ended, the devil having now put into the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, to betray him. Yeah, so it's the same formula, man. And they try to make it like it was a peaceful meal, and then they exchanged gifts. Man, it wasn't no peaceful meal. It was slaughter, man. It was slaughter. They had war in their hearts. So, and that's the same concept, man. The devil, they put an evil thought into these devils' mind. The spiritual demon Satan put an evil thought into these devils' mind. And they acted on it, man, and that's what happened. I'm making the comparison here with Judas Iscariot when he betrayed our Lord, man. He said. So let me read this again. This is St. John 13 and 2. It says, "And supper being ended, the devil having now put into the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, to betray him." Yeah, and these devils, they betrayed the Native American Indians, man. And the devil put it into their mind to do it. The devil put it into their mind to do that, man. And I want to grab this last This is Galatians 3 and 15. It says, "Brethren, I speak after the manner of men, though it be but a man's covenant, yet if it be confirmed, no man disannulleth and add thereto." Yeah, so though it just be a covenant between men, in which they made covenants, they made treaties, and they said they would do a certain thing. The Most High believes that you're supposed to honor a thing like that, man. If you go into a covenant and an agreement with a brother, with a man, you're supposed to honor what you say. Let your yea be yea, like our Lord says. Let your nay be nay. If you say something, let it be yes, let it be no, and then follow through with it. You can't look at it just because it's just a covenant between you and a man. Nah, that thing holds weight. Think about it with Jacob and Esau, man. When he said, "Sell me this day your birthright." It was an agreement between them two, but it was something that was still looked at as something that the Most High wants men to stand by. Your word. If you make a covenant, you stand by it. And these devils don't stand by their word. You know, they go back on their word all the time, man. You know, hence they broke treaties with the Native American tribes. They broke 368 treaties, man. You know? You see what I'm saying? Salakia. Yeah, so they broke 360 plus you know, treaties, man. So I just wanted to pull this article, man, because it's fitting, because today is supposed to be some high holy day for these heathen. You know, and it says for Native peoples, Thanksgiving isn't a celebration; it's a national day of mourning. Yeah, because people were slaughtered, man. You know, people were actually slaughtered. This isn't a time to make mirth. You know, this is a sad time for people, man. You know, this is a sad time. So with that, I want to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'Hashem, Yahushua, Ba'Hashem, Kadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles who rule well. Peace and salutations to the hopeful elect. And enough respect to the brothers that's laboring in this truth, continuing in the spirit of Lord Yahushua, not going about to establish their own righteousness, but following after in the footsteps of Lord Yahushua and following the Lamb whithersoever he goeth. Till next time, Shalom.